Hello and welcome back to another episode of Just Gay Stuff. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Jess.
Ooh, this has been a while since we've been in the podcast room because you've left me for a bit. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mean it like that.
Don't make him think bad things happen. That's
No,
not
I lied. Not bad things happened. You've just been traveling? No, I don't know what I was trying to say.
I've been traveling, Lauren.
But I was trying to say it fancy.
If my voice sounds a bit strange, I am still a bit husky. I went to Europe for 3 weeks and came back with a memento in the form of a sinus infection. So that was really, really good.
Was it actually a sinus infection? Or
I don't know,
was
but
it
that's
something else.
I'm putting it down to that because I was negative for everything on the multi-rat test, and
Yeah.
then my nose was sore, my eyes were sore, my ear is sore. So
Still a time.
I went to amazing places and that's what I came back with. So it was a good time though.
Well, it was a good time for you. I was
a good time for
lonely.
Big shout out to my mum who got sick on day 4 of the trip and
She
soldiered
rallied.
the fuck on.
She rallied
And
like
we
a queen.
we had a great time. It was awesome. So yeah, now we're back here and we're back recording some super gay stuff and I'm happy for that.
We are some super gay stuff. I think.
Because I know you missed me.
I did miss you. I was going to say for those who are new, our new listeners, our new friends, because we do have quite a few of them.
New followers, which
New
has been awesome to
followers,
see, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Who don't necessarily know the backstory that we are partners.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard considering in true, I guess, lesbian or same-sex form, we hadn't really been apart from each other for that long before.
No, you made a joke before and said we'd not been apart for more than 2 days, but
Yeah.
that's actually a lie. We've been apart for longer than that. I think the longest we've been apart since we met was probably like I've spent 7 days in North Queensland.
Yeah.
And that was only like 2 weeks after we
I
met.
was going to say, I'm pretty sure that was super fresh, so it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't as hard as essentially living together
Yeah.
now.
But the greatest thing, I guess, with the help of technology, we were able to still communicate.
FaceTime. And like Europe is only 9 or 10 hours behind. So
Still was hard though, different time zones, saying good morning, good night.
harder for you because you're in your regular routine and just missing that thing that's safe that's usually there.
Yeah.
For me, I was having the fucking time of my life. I was like adventure here, adventure there. It was sick. Anyway,
Tell me how you really feel.
I did miss you though. I'm happy. Look, if I can't say anything else, I'm happy to be home.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you home, and our little dog fur babies are happy to have you home.
Yeah, I miss them.
They miss you too. So before you went away, we watched this show called Fake. And for those who don't know, I don't know if I can really give away.
It's just, yeah, I guess
to
it's
explain the concept of the show.
It's a series with Asha Keddy in it. It's actually based on a true person,
Yeah.
but she plays the role of this person who lived a true story about dating, and essentially the person that she found on a website was fake.
Yeah.
Like he was a fantasist. He made up every aspect of his life just to, I guess, bait her, but it was actually,
Yeah, and I think we binge watched that series. We were quite enveloped in it. And from that, because I knew it was a real story, I went and bought the book and I wanted to know more. And the series did a great job, true to form. But when I was reading the book, something really stood out to me. And that was that in 2007, Victoria had only lifted the ban for lesbians to be able to get IVF. 2007 is not that long ago.
No, it's quite recent.
Yeah. So because of that, it kind of got my brain fired up thinking about what are the other dumb laws that they shouldn't have been a thing in the first place.
All these illegal things that
Yeah.
have had to become legal just to give basic human rights.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a little bit of a deep dive, and that's what today's episode is about.
We're doing another educational episode. And
Yeah.
I think that everyone's enjoying those because we seem to be getting some pretty good feedback on them. So we hope that is true, and we hope that you enjoy this one, talking about all the illegal dumb shit that us LGBT people have had to go through.
So before we do start, I do have to place a trigger warning, as some of these illegal laws previously could be quite harrowing and still affect you or affect people today.
Oh, I'm sure it's hectic. I'm sure some of the things that are literally, like I said before, basic human rights that were denied.
Yeah. But before we get into any of that heavy stuff, I thought I would open the conversation with some really ridiculous, lighthearted laws.
Here we go. Were these American laws, Lauren? Because those are some of the most ridiculous.
Well, I mean, Some are, but we kind of went all over the world. And these ones are mostly Australian, actually, at the beginning.
She kept it close to home. So everyone, we're learning together.
Some of them. And I mean, we do have some amazing American fans, so you can't all put it all the way.
I didn't say Americans. I just said the laws are dumb.
Yeah.
Some of them anyway.
All right. So this is the first dumb one, and this is from Western Australia repping. So this one is crushing beer cans between your breasts.
Oh, it's illegal in WA?
Well, it was. I don't know if it still is, but it says it was illegal in WA for a woman to crush a beer can between her breasts in public, with some incidents leading to arrests.
Is that because you would have to get him out to do it and then that's public
I was like,
indecency?
is it the nudity side of things?
Or is it because it's harmful for you anyway? What if you cut yourself?
But also imagine if it's just someone like fully clothed and they've got their tits and they're just...
To be honest, I'm impressed if I was to see that. Like, I would never be able to do that.
We're not endorsing that. Don't go do it, but...
Can you do this at home?
Jess would be impressed. All right, so this next one is from Victoria. Changing a light bulb without a licensed electrician. In Victoria, it was once illegal to change a light bulb unless you were a licensed electrician.
I mean, I get it because some people, you know, we talk about this thing called common sense, and it's really misleading because the word common is in there, meaning it should be all around. Yeah, but a lot of people seem to not have it. So it should be called uncommon sense.
That's true.
And so in that respect, I feel like a lot of people that would try and change the light bulb would do it the wrong way.
That's true.
And that's where all those jokes come from. Like, how many lesbians does it take to change a light bulb, you know?
I didn't even think about that.
Do you know how many lesbians it takes to change a light bulb? One.
Yeah,
exactly. Because we know how to do shit right.
Because the lesbians for the win.
Because most of us are tradies anyway. Not me.
I was like, definitely not us. Not in this relationship.
Although
you are quite handy.
I am very proud to say I know how to change a tyre.
Yeah, I was thinking that the other day. I was like, you need to teach me how to do that.
And I know how to change a light bulb. And I know there's a screw in and there's a bayonet. Look at me sharing knowledge.
Calm down. All the lesbians will come after you. All right. This next one is also from Victoria. Wearing hot pink pants after midday on a Sunday.
Who are you kidding? It is never hot enough in Victoria to wear hot pink pants anyway.
There was an old law in Victoria that prohibited wearing hot pink pants afternoon on Sundays.
That is ridiculous.
Is that like a churchy thing?
Nah, I reckon it's just because they reckon you're stupid if you do.
Although why? But hot pink pants is like what? As in like the short booty shorts?
Well, that's
hot
what
pink
I'm
pants
thinking
as
of.
in like, oh, see, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking
70s flares.
No, I was thinking like leather hot pink jean pant things.
Oh, no, that's not what I had in my head. I had like hot pink booty shorts in my head, and I was like, well, that's dumb because Victoria is never hot enough to wear that. So they're probably just like, you know,
but why is it Sunday?
Oh, well, yeah, that's the Lord's Day.
That's the Lord's Day. That's what I said.
That's the Lord's Day, Lauren.
Is it a churchy thing? This one I understand, and I really don't think is a bad one that was illegal, or it still is illegal, I think. And this is from Queensland. Leaving your car keys in the ignition. Well, duh. It's illegal in Queensland to leave your car keys in the ignition if you're more than 3 meters away from your car.
I think a felon is more likely to find your car and take it before the police officer would fine you for finding you with that happening.
Well, that's where my thought went, that like someone would just come and steal your car.
Yeah, I don't think you've got no chance of getting fined if that was to happen. Someone would be in there and away.
And especially with all these kids these days, no bloody filter. They're just...
Yeah.
That made me sound so old. All these bloody kids these days.
Fun story, just because that's, dumb. Back in the day, my dad used to park his car out the front of our house because my mum drove the more expensive car, so that one went in the garage.
Yeah, well, fair.
So my dad left his car out on the curb until mum would come home, and then he would park his car in behind it because we only had like a single driveway, one in front of the other.
Yeah.
That was the smart thing.
Yeah.
Except when he pulled up home, he would just take the keys out of the ignition and put them in the side of the door. And I literally remember leaving school one day. I left school and I saw my dad's car drive past with someone else driving it.
Oh, no.
And when we got home, he was like, someone stole the car. And I was like, I literally saw
you
it.
were like, did you
drive
leave your
past
keys
me."
in the freaking thing?
Well, I didn't need to ask that. He did that every day. That was what he did. So, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's a bit hard to get sympathy from a police officer when they're like, oh, your car was stolen. Where were the keys? In the car. Oh, there you go.
Dickhead.
So, I mean, yeah.
Oh, no. How old were you when this happened?
I was still in primary school. I was probably like 11.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon I was probably in grade 6.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Bloody damn.
Things that stand out. Like,
All right. This one's from Tasmania.
I read it before.
Oh, did you? You're not supposed to do that.
That's ridiculous.
Handling salmon suspiciously. In Tasmania,
How do you even do that?
in Tasmania, there's a law against handling salmon in suspicious circumstances.
Well, you just have like a fish in your pocket and you're like, blah, blah, blah. Like, what?
I don't know.
Are you hiding it in your butt?
Or is
That's
it like,
suspicious.
like a gun? Or
I don't know.
it's me and my salmon.
Oh, Jesus. I'm kind of lumping us with America after these.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as bad as I think it's in Texas. You can't eat fried chicken with a fork. That's illegal.
Oh, what?
And I think that's like still illegal today.
Is it because you got to eat it with your hands? Because
Yeah.
that's the only way to eat finger licking good chicken.
Yeah, it's not called fork licking, is it?
Oh. That's some sexual term that no, I'm just kidding.
That's in the Urban Dictionary.
Okay, so those were some light-hearted ones, some ridiculous ones, but I am about to get into more of the serious ones that directly affected our community. I didn't necessarily stick with Australia. I kind of went worldwide. So we're kind of, I guess, traveling like you just did.
Yeah, well, let's go around the world and see some of the stuff that we've had to put up with and I guess hurdle across and rise from like the oppressions of this. We are an oppressed community.
Yeah, we are. And
So-
again, these laws can be quite confronting, so I do have to put this trigger warning in place again.
I think just to preface what you're about to say and go through all these, I think the reasons we do these episodes is so that, you know, we can sit here and go, wow, so many people before us had it this bad and they've paved the way for us to have what we have now, and we can still keep laying bricks to keep paving the way forward. And it's good to learn where you've come from and the other parts of culture.
Yeah. So we're starting in the US, and this is starting with sodomy laws. So for those who might not be familiar with sodomy laws, this is criminalized consensual same-sex sexual activity. These laws were enforced in many states until the Supreme Court ruling in Lawrence versus Texas in 2003.
And well, sodomy is mostly between gay men.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the lesbians were unaffected in this, but essentially our gay counterparts were unfortunately affected
It's
heavily.
still so sad when you think about it. You know, it was only
2003.
And the fact that, you know, we have gay male friends, to think that if they were back in that time, for them to have a relationship, to have
Was
that
still
intimacy, it was still
criminalised.
criminalized. So that's
Yeah.
really hard and sad.
Really heavy.
Yeah. So we're traveling a bit to the UK now, where you just came from.
I did.
They had a Section 28, which was passed in 1988. This law prohibited local authorities and schools from promoting homosexuality or even teaching that gay relationships were acceptable. The government basically tried to erase the LGBTQIA plus community and people from education. Again, the law was only reappealed in 2003.
That's ridiculous considering throughout history, there are so many LGBTQ people that have done good for the world. Like Oscar Wilde is like, he was put in jail for being homosexual, but
Yeah.
you know, he's one of the great writers that you learn about throughout school.
Yeah.
Things like that. And there's a lot of people that I've left off the list. Like Oscar Wilde was just the one that jumps
Came to your
me
head,
because
yeah.
he's one of the most famous you learn about, especially in literature and in
Yeah.
English in high school, you know, and to not be able to learn about the complete person is such a disservice to what they've given culture and what
Yeah.
they've given community. And
I think the saddest thing amongst this as well is still today there is not enough education when it comes to sex education for same-sex couples.
There's not even that much education for heterosexual couples.
No, I know there's not, but at least there is a little slither of education for
how to put a condom on a banana.
Yeah, how to have protection, how to go to the doctors, how to this. But there's nothing for gay men or gay women to be like, oh, this is how you do this, which is why things were filled with diseases.
Or non-binary people.
Or non-binary
There's no
people.
education for trans non-binary people. And I really hope that this will start to change in schools because we do exist.
Yeah.
And for us to exist further than high school, you have to acknowledge our existence to start with.
Exactly. So we're moving back to the US now because they had a lot of these annoying laws.
Moving back to the US because, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the don't ask, don't tell.
I won't ask, you won't tell me.
This policy was introduced in 1994 and lasted until 2011.
This was the army one, wasn't it? Yeah.
It barred LGBTQIA plus people from serving openly in the military. If you were found out, you could be discharged. We won't ask you if you're gay, but you better not tell us. You had to hide your identity, lie about who you were, and hope you weren't discovered.
Again, you're having to hide a whole person of you to just do your job. And really quickly, for all of our friends that have watched the first series of the L Word, this was obviously covered in the character of Tasha, who was Alice's love interest. I can't remember the season because I've watched it far too many times. It's all just blurred into one. But so Tasha, clearly a lesbian serving in the US military. I think it's a bit different in terms of, yes, don't ask, don't tell. But in Tasha's case, and I'm sure a lot of other people's cases, you're just out living your life, and sometimes your home life and your work life can collide. And then there's no going back. In Tasha's case, for anyone who's watched, we know that she saw someone that she worked with in the military outside while she was out with Alice and her friends, and she suddenly felt like she needed to be in the closet. He saw her kiss Alice, so he already knew her secret. And unfortunately, that was her undoing.
Yeah.
She suddenly had to hide who she was. She was not able to do her job properly. She was terrified to lose her position, and that's all she ever wanted to do. You know, some of these people have grown up only ever wanting to serve their country, and yet their country won't serve them back.
Oh, I felt that one deep in my soul. The thing that gets me and that stands out to me on this one is that it was only reappealed in 2011.
I know,
that's when
so
I graduated
recent.
high school.
Shut up. That's so recent though. And I think we'll talk about this as well in terms of for us as people to show character in jobs and in other opportunities in life. We're going to do another episode on gay athletes.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's unfair to be forcibly told to hide a section of who you are just for the sake of a job.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And it's the case of, unfortunately, we as queer people, a part of the alphabet mafia, are always cautious of this. I know
absolutely.
That, you know, I've recently started a new job, and whilst, yes, there are safe people there, and not that it's something that openly comes out of my mouth anyways, but being so cautious because I know that there's some not so safe people there.
And I think the difference is as well, and I think we've talked about this tiny bits before, you are just being you.
Yeah.
And you meet people on a daily basis and you form these friendships or you form relationships with people no matter what that looks like. And then suddenly you forget that you have this part of you that might not be accepted by them. And it doesn't matter what kind of person you are and how respectful you are and how much they might like you as a person. That one thing about you could change all of that.
Yeah, I do find, I know I'm going on a little side quest here. I do find that there are parts, especially because, you know, on my keys, I have our merchandise on our little keychain, and when a not so safe person walks into the office, I feel like I'm forced to hide what's on my keys so that they are not aware of the situation or what's going on. And that's something where I've never been in that position before, and it's not a nice feeling. It's
kind of like you expect to always be able to step in the sun, but you have to keep half of you in the shade.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. For this one, this is a really, really heavy one. And I do have to preface that if you are a trans person or if you are still going on your journey or discovering,
if you're triggered by
some of those things. I do want to preface that, please feel free to skip ahead.
Hit the little 15-second forward 3 times.
Yeah, just because this one is a bit heavy. Okay. This next one is from Sweden, and it's one of the most invasive.
Sweden, that really surprises me.
Yeah, and it surprised me too when I read it.
Okay.
Until 2013, which is not that long ago.
Nope.
Transgender individuals had to undergo sterilization to legally change their gender. Yes, you heard that right, sterilization. It's so horrifying and dehumanizing to force someone to give up their own reproductive rights just to have their gender legally recognized. It's wild that this was in a place in such a progressive country.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't know how to...
I felt that.
Yeah, and that's why I needed to preface that, because it was really heavy.
If anybody's watching the video on YouTube or Spotify, I think they saw my face literally just like...
drop.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. Why should you have to sterilize your body and essentially become infertile for changing your gender?
You shouldn't.
Yes, okay. We've spoken to trans people before, and a lot of them choose to get a hysterectomy.
I think it's different if it's your choice.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Not if it's enforced.
Yeah. And look, a lot of people that have experienced gender dysphoria, and especially female to male trans people, they don't want to experience carrying a child. But do you know what they do have the option of? Extracting eggs to be able to make a child with a partner. This is not on.
No,
that's
it's
ridiculous.
not. And the fact that it was 2013 again.
That's only, 11 years ago?
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, the thing that really surprised you is that it was Sweden, a very progressive country.
Yeah. I mean, I've always viewed Sweden and Switzerland and most of those European countries, to be fair, as more progressive than us.
Yeah.
Because they've always had more equal rights, or more, they've always been just ahead of the times in terms of even work-life balance and things like
exactly.
that. So yeah, that really does surprise me. I've learned something there.
Yeah. I'm still taken a bit aback.
I feel it's heavy.
You feel heavy.
It's heavy.
You feel it. So Okay. So this next one is talking about the queer people that were impacted all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another heavy one. The fact that homosexuality was classified as a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 1973 that the American Psychiatric Association removed it from the DSM, the Big Book of Mental Disorders. And before that, homosexuality was seen as something that needed to be cured. People were subjected to conversion therapies, institutionalized, and all sorts of treatments to fix them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in Australia, talking about this now, we're still going state to state.
I know.
Banning conversion therapy. And it's only this year that some of the states are actually banning those conversion therapies.
Yeah.
And we're in 2024. We're in 2024.
It's mental.
I can't even accept this from the 70s. But to be able to still be trying to...
In 2024.
To be putting bans in place of trying to change people for who they are. Try and decriminalize the criminals.
Yeah.
Not the people who are just trying to love who they want to love.
That's the thing. It's none of your business.
Literally.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Those were some heavy ones. And whilst this is still kind of a little bit heavy, we're going to talk about same-sex marriage. Many countries once banned same-sex marriage, but today it's now legal in over 35 nations, including the US, UK, and Australia. Yes, Australia was late and only legalised it in 2017.
Yes.
After a postal vote survey. Again,
a plebiscite.
Again, nobody's business. Nobody should get to vote on who we marry, but whatever. And the fight for marriage equality was long and tough. It was about more than just marriage. It was a huge win. But let's not forget that there are still heaps of countries where same-sex couples can't marry, and the fact that it's still illegal.
Yeah, so talking about that, there's actually still 64 countries.
64?
Yeah, that still have same-sexual acts as a criminal offence.
Oh my God.
And these range from de facto criminalisation all the way to the death penalty. And I think it's about 11 countries that still have it as the death penalty. But let's talk about this just really quickly.
Oh.
Most of these are in Africa and in Asian countries. So let's run through a few of them. Let's start on the map and we'll go from the left to the right.
It's sad that there's even a map.
Yeah, there's a map. So we're going to start in Tonga. Same-sex acts are illegal with a max prison sentence of 10 years.
I would not have thought that about Tonga.
No. And because, depending what you read, some writings from way back say that a lot of those islander countries have celebrated same-sex relationships. And this is the information we have now. So, Followed by Samoa is a max prison sentence of 7 years. Kiribati, which is a max prison sentence of 14 years. Jamaica, 10 years. In Guyana is life in prison. Sorry, guys, this is getting really heavy. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is 10 years. Grenada is 10 years. St. Lucia is 10 years. Mauritania is death penalty, a fine, and can be a max prison sentence of 2 years. I guess that depends on how they found out.
Yeah, I was like, how do you... What?
Yeah. Senegal, 5 years. Sierra Leone is life in prison. Guinea is 3 years max prison sentence. We're not going to get through all of these, guys, but this is just some of the...
I feel so sad and dirty.
Yeah. Ghana, it's illegal. It's a 3-year prison sentence.
What's the closest one to Australia?
Closest to Australia is Papua New Guinea with a max prison sentence of 14 years. Solomon Islands, 14 years. And then we're getting into the Asian countries. So Malaysia, 20 years. Brunei, death penalties on the table and a max prison sentence of 30 years. Saudi Arabia, we know that these pretty hectic countries, the death penalties are still on the table. So Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iran, Afghanistan actually has a no legal certainty on the death penalty label. So you guys get the picture. It's still a pretty hectic world that we live in terms of that.
Oh,
that really got heavy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that really got heavy, and that really hurt my soul a little bit. But I think that's why we do these episodes, for some education, as rough and as hard as they might be, for us to appreciate those who came before us, those who helped pave the way. And no, in this episode I didn't include being able to be out in bars as homosexuals and the whole Stonewall riots, because I feel like that's owed to an episode of its own.
Yeah. Also, I just want to say as well, homosexuality was decriminalised in Australia in 1997, which I know we've touched on before, but for anyone who hasn't listened to those previous episodes, that is still quite recent for Australia.
Yeah. I think the thing that currently baffles me is if you go back to the Victorian times, where everyone slept with one another, everyone was this and that, and fluid and orgies and living their best lives. So how did we go from that? And yes, there was troubles back then, but how did we go from that to suddenly people under that queer umbrella are suddenly illegal or not accepted?
I think you would have to live in that time and then live in this time to know the difference or see the change that happened or that didn't happen, because I don't think you're ever going to get clear information otherwise.
No. So to end this episode, because those were some very heavy laws that I am still
speechless.
I am speechless. I can't believe that they existed, and that was what I intended when I thought about this episode.
And there's still plenty more, guys. Like, we might do an episode 2 on this.
Yeah, and if you guys know of any ridiculous ones, please let us know in the comments, because I'm sure there are some we don't know of.
Oh, yeah, well, we only briefly touched on the IVF situations. We touched on the decriminalising of homosexuality in Australia. We really just scratched the surface, and that was just to give everybody a bit of a taste of what people really did have to live through and are still living through in a lot of those other countries that we aren't living through now, and how far we've come. And it's always good to have that knowledge under your belt, because it gives us appreciation for what we do have.
Yeah. So to end this episode, I thought I would end on one of the most ridiculous laws that ever existed. And that was beard tax in the 18th century Russia. During the reign of Peter the Great, men who wanted to keep their beards were required to pay a tax. Peter believed that clean-shaven faces made men look more modern and aligned with the European customs. If you paid the tax, you were given a token to prove you had paid for the privilege of keeping your beard. The idea of taxing facial hair for modernization is both absurd and in today's context laughable. It's bullshit.
It is.
Anyways, well, I hope that everybody learned something today.
Yeah, I know that I did.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And anyway, if you want to keep learning with us, well, then you better tune in to another episode.
Tune into another episode. Be sure to hit those follow buttons on all our social media.
Make sure that you are hitting the follow button. It is really good to see so many people jump on board with Just Gay Stuff podcast. You know, when we started this, we say this all the time. We really thought
but
that
it's because we're appreciative.
We are. We literally thought only a few people would listen, and, you know, we get hundreds of plays a week. So that's amazing. And we want to just keep getting bigger and bigger and better. And we can only do that with the help of you guys. So we really hope you enjoy what you hear from us. We really hope you enjoy these educational episodes. We hope you come back. And I guess until next week, you better
remember to
stay gay, motherfuckers.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about Just Gay Stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.